Hello and welcome to the FIFA Interactive World Cup Road to Berlin. Today the competition reaches its climax as we look back at the recent finals at the Sony Centre in Berlin. Chris Bullard, one of the qualifiers and a former winner of this competition, joins us on the sofa, along with Champions League commentator Trevor Harris and esports commentator Paul Challoner. Plenty coming up from the chaps, but first let's have a look at what's happened so far. This is the Road to Berlin.
Starting in 2004, the Interactive World Cup is an annual competition organised by FIFA, EA and Sony, in which gamers from around the globe compete for the biggest title in interactive entertainment. The UK qualifiers started more than 7 months ago, culminating with the best 16 players competing in the UK finals in Manchester. Chris Bullard won that event to secure his place at the Grand Finals in Berlin. There he was joined by fellow Englishmen Max Fayers and Danny Taylor, who both qualified via the online heats. The 32 finalists are now prepared to battle it out for the title of FIFA Interactive World Player 2008 and a cash prize of $20,000. But competition will be fierce, with star players from across the world in attendance, including reigning champion Andrew Smith and previous winners Stephen Corey and Ruben Morales.
There we go, EA's fantastic FIFA Interactive World Cup. Now, chaps, welcome back to the sofa. Chris, former winner of this, how did you feel going into the tournament?
I felt really confident sort of going in. Obviously, after winning Manchester, that was a really big tournament, a lot of good players there. So, yeah, I was playing well. So, 3 weeks, 4 weeks up into the tournament.
High hopes indeed. Now, Trevor, the FIFA Interactive World Cup, it's in Berlin, a city rich with history, footballing history as well. It doesn't get much bigger than this, does it?
It's a fantastic tournament, Paul. We know that Chris can wipe the floor with most of the English players, but this is the acid test up against the best players from around the world. And don't forget, Max and Danny Taylor, also very good players. We've got three guys from England, all with a decent chance here.
OK, Paul, what's the standard of overall gameplay here? We're dealing in details, aren't we? The slightest slip up, and you're going to pay at this level.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, he'll vouch for this in the fact that previous tournaments he's played in, he's made one mistake, he's ended up going home. This is no different, except that you do have the best of the best playing in this tournament. And not only that, at least we don't have any Italians managing them, so they've got a chance of staying in the competition, I guess.
Certainly. Well, on that note, we'll now have a look at the group standings. Paul, talk us through these, please.
Yeah, so we have 8 groups in all, 8 groups of 4, exactly the same way as the World Cup sorted out. You can see a plethora of flags on your screen right now. That actually is the first half of the groups, and probably the weakest side of the groups in all.
It really is. Now, let's have a look at the next 4.
This is where the real stuff gets going. You've got a previous winner in Group 7, Mr. Smith. Ribero's a top player as well, but the group of death is Group 6. Look at that. Ramos, potential winner, Buffo, potential winner, Chris Bullard and Max Fayers. We couldn't have asked for a worse group for our 2 UK players.
It really does look like the group of death. As Trevor was saying, you always have one, don't you?
Trevor said to us before we came on here, you always get a group of death in every competition that we have in football. The FIFA Interactive World Cup's no different, sadly, from our point of view.
You really do. OK, enough talk and on to the action as we head over to the German capital to see how Chris got on.
English favourite Chris Bullard kicked off his campaign with a match against Alfonso Ramos of Spain. The match pitted the UK champion against one of the fancied players. In a tightly contested match, the Spaniard eventually ran out victorious by 3-2. A second defeat would mean elimination for Chris, who now faced fellow Englishman Fayers in the second group game.
Apparently Chris has got a cold. I'm not sure whether that's a real reason or if it's just an excuse for when he gets knocked out, but I think even with the cold he's going to be a threat. So.
With the pressure on both men, the match started tightly, with few chances either way. And it wasn't until the 42nd minute that Fayers broke the deadlock. Fayers added another at the start of the second half, and with Bullard staring elimination in the face, he managed to pull one back to make it 2-1. However, Fayers all but ended the contest with a third goal deep into the second half, and he further compounded Bullard's misery by adding a fourth before the 90 minutes were up.
I feel really bad for Chris because I knew going into that game one of us was going to be out of the tournament. I had to win. A draw wouldn't have been good enough because of such a poor result in the first game. I'm glad I got the result, but I feel for Chris because I know he didn't get the luck in that game. I scored a couple of really lucky goals.
There we go, tragedy for Chris. I guess we should get the unpleasantness out of the way first and foremost. 2 games and already out of the tournament. What happened?
Yeah, I think with Ramos' first game, that's sort of, it could have been the sort of final in another sort of tournament. You know, I knew it was going to be a tough game. I was a little bit unlucky to lose. Then against Max Fairs, who knew my game, probably the best, you know, than anyone did at that tournament.
I don't think I'm right.
Really
I'm right in
tournament.
saying that you haven't really lost to him competitively before, have you?
To Max Fairs, no.
No, so that was the first defeat.
That was actually the first time we played.
Competitively?
Yeah.
Incredible. These guys were sparring partners before the tournament. Do you think that had any impact on it, Trev?
Well, I think Max certainly would have done a lot of studying up of the way that Chris plays. I was going to ask you, Chris, I mean, was he being a bit modest there, Max? Because he said he was lucky, but 4-1 doesn't sound like a lucky scoreline.
I don't think he was too lucky. He played very well, knew my game. Obviously, he'd planned to play me probably at a later stage, but yeah, he was really good.
And Paul, the group of death, we talked about it earlier, and it struck early, didn't it, with one of the, not only the group favourites, but one of the tournament favourites.
Yeah, awful group. To lose, really, for the competition's sake, to lose any of those four was going to be a shame. And I think there was an inevitability about the fact that we'd lose at least one of our players from that group as an English person. And unfortunately, it fell on Chris. I mean, he's right in a way that Ramos versus Chrissy B in any other tournament would have been a phenomenal final and two, you know, top competitors. So it was a real shame they met in the first group.
We have to ask about this cold, Chris. What's that all about? We saw you taking medication there. When drugs tested, I hope after.
I'm not sure. Something I caught in Birmingham, I think, the week before. But
was it? Any impact on that? Was that an excuse or was that just...
Yeah, I think it does sort of affect your concentration and stuff. When you need to focus 100% and you are coughing and stuff, it's not exactly pleasant, but yeah, it was just...
Was it more that you had like 2 weeks leading up to it, you didn't get any chance to practice again? Wasn't that more to do
I
with
guess
the
the
head cold?
preparation did hinder me a bit, but on top of a cold, on top of the group of death. What was it I did?
What else do you need? That's it. OK, so Chris is out, but two gamers still fly the flag for the UK. Having beaten Chris, could Max continue his good form against the Spanish champion Ramos?
Having beaten Bullard in the previous round, Fayez needed a victory against Ramos to progress any further in the competition.
It's going to be 50-50. We might as well toss a coin, to be honest. That's how I feel at the moment, but I'm still confident because I think, you know, I've got to play these players sometime in the competition. Why not take them out early on?
It is quite simply the biggest game in Max Fayez' fledgling career. Nearest to camera there, up against Alfonso Ramos. And Fayez is playing in the light blue away Barcelona kit. They're both playing Barcelona, and 1-0 straight away to Ramos. Fayez caught cold almost from the kickoff. Now he has to regroup. This is Eto'o. And now Ronaldinho. Fayez all over the place. First shot blocked. No one in goal. It was a tap-in the end. 2-0. He's got to get going quickly here. A bit more promising. Eto'o. Nice little turn. Can he finish? He can. Right back in it, Max. And that was a sporting's gesture, wasn't it, from Ramos? Looked across and gave him a pat on the shoulder there. Maybe some more play in this game after all. Ronaldinho. Ramos will threaten to run away with it early, and he might still do that. 3-1 it is. Just cut right through Fayez' defence. And he's coming forward again. Desperate needs an early goal, Fayez, at the start of the second half, and Eto'o might provide it. That's a wonderful solo effort. And that'll give Fayez a lot of confidence. 3-2 now. Pressure on again for Ramos, who looked to be coasting at one stage. Well, he needs a fourth. This is Henry. Nice turn. Quality finish. And Max Fayez' brave battle's over.
I've put in 3 good performances. But I am disappointed because I thought it was within my reach, but in the end I failed. You know, I think I beat the best player in the group, and then I ended up, you know, losing. When I think I could have done better, but I'm happy. I'm happy with how I did, and I can just enjoy it now. So.
There we go. So yet another Englishman bows out in the group stages. We've seen this all before in the real football. Now we're seeing it again. Ramos, it was a tough group, and Ramos is a very good player.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could Max have done any more there?
I don't know. I think it's difficult. I mean, it's his first major tournament. I think you have to take that into account. You know, Chris had a few tournaments and he's already crashed out. So to see Max go out as well, very disappointing from an English point of view. But we're getting used to it, aren't we? We don't qualify for anything anymore.
Yeah. Same old story, isn't it, Trevor?
Well, he lost that game, Paul, in the first 20 minutes. Actually, for the last hour, there was nothing between them. But he was 2 goals down before he blinked, and a quality opponent like that doesn't let you come back.
What was your reading of that final game? I presume you watched it. Could it have gone either way? Or
not really. Ramos was just, you know, a step above everyone else. I think
He's a goal machine.
in the group stage. You know,
What makes him so good? I mean, we've all heard his name, but we haven't. A lot of English players won't have seen much of him.
I think he just went there and played without fear. You know, he didn't fear anyone. He just played with flair, played with creativity.
He's very attacking, wasn't he, in every game? I mean, he scored like a multitude of goals, more than anyone else, and that attacking style seemed to pay off.
He really does say, if you score 3, I'll score 4. That's his whole motto.
The old adage, the old Manchester United thing.
Definitely.
So they're maxed out, but it was his first major tournament, so he didn't do too badly, did he?
No, like experience is a big thing at these tournaments, especially in the sort of latter stages. Yeah, he can take pride from, you know, at least one win, and you know he'll be back next year, no doubt stronger.
OK, now let's have a look at how that leaves the first group standings. Paul, what's over these?
Most of the early favourites that we had have pretty much come through. One surprise, one of the Australians not going through, and Group 1 and Group 3. But other than that, pretty ordinary results.
OK, now we can have a look at the second groups.
Yeah, this second half's a lot tougher, but the one big surprise, other than the fact that we lost both the English guys in there, is actually in Group 7, where the defending champion, Andre Smit, went out as well. So it was a surprise to see him go out in round 1.
OK, thanks, guys. Well, that is it for this part, but please don't go away, because we're back to the Sony Centre in Berlin.